The greatest strategic failure in marketing is the utility illusion, believing that features and price-to-performance ratios win markets while ignoring the neurological fact that humans actually make purchasing decisions based on the one story that syncs with their deepest identity.
I mean, we've all seen this, right? The big product launch, you've got founders up on a stage pointing at these slides just packed with specs and charts and all the usual buzzwords: speed, scale, simplicity. Seriously, think about the last phone launch you watched. They probably spent, 20 minutes talking about the chip's processing speed? But what do you actually remember? It's the commercial, right? The one with the family capturing some perfect, beautiful moment. See, they're completely convinced that if they just explain how their gadget works, we'll all just magically get its value. But that's a fundamental misunderstanding of how people tick. How it works is probably the most boring question you could possibly ask. And here's the kicker: your product is not the hero. The customer is. And if all you're doing is listing features, you're not building a brand. You're just writing a really boring user manual.
So this really brings us to a crossroads. You've got the old way, which is that user manual approach. Yeah, it's logical, it's clear, and it's almost completely ineffective. It's basically a sales pitch aimed right at the logical brain. You know, the part of us that's biologically wired to find flaws, compare prices, and basically just say no. But then there's the new way. This is about creating a myth. It's all about transformation, about identity. It completely bypasses that logical gatekeeper and speaks directly to the part of the brain that actually makes decisions, the part that is desperate for a story to believe in. Suddenly, you're not selling a tool anymore. You're offering someone the starring role in their own compelling drama.
All right, so over the next few minutes, we're going to break down exactly how to build this new approach. It's time to leave the world of feature lists behind and step into the realm of myth-making. We'll kick things off by dissecting the utility illusion, why that's just a race to the bottom. Then we'll get into the simple truth that we humans are a narrative species. We'll unpack the core mechanism, this mythological-anchoring engine. We'll even dive into the neuroscience, the why behind stories' power. After that, we'll lay out the practical steps to architect your own myth. And finally, we'll see how all of this can transform your brand from just another choice into, an undeniable destiny.
Okay, let's dive right in. So why has the old way of doing things, the old way of marketing, just completely broken down? The answer really lies in this huge market shift, one that has basically made the word better almost meaningless.
You see, we've hit a turning point. We're in what you could call the Feature Parity Crisis. This is the moment where code essentially became a commodity. Think about it. With AI helping to write code, with global outsourcing, with these incredibly fast development cycles, any unique technical advantage, any killer feature, can be spotted, copied, and rolled out by 3 of your competitors in a month. Your unique selling proposition, it's just a temporary novelty now. That deep, wide moat you thought you built with brilliant engineering, turns out it was just a puddle.
And the fallout from this crisis? It's huge. What you get is a market just flooded with products that all basically do the same thing. And what happens then? It immediately kicks off a race to the bottom on price. If your product is identical to everyone else's, why on earth would anyone pay more for it? Brands just become invisible, totally lost in the sea of sameness. And companies? They become what the source material calls technical giants, but emotional midgets. They're brilliant at engineering, no doubt, but they're completely inept at making a real human connection. They're trying to sell a tool to a person who is actually desperately looking for a transformation.
So this is the crucial pivot point. If technology isn't the differentiator anymore, then what is, right? What's left? The answer isn't in the code, it's in our neurology. We have to pivot. We have to look away from the product and focus on the fundamental way the human brain actually processes reality. And this right here is the core idea of everything we're talking about. Our brains, they're not data processors, they're story processors. Think about it. For thousands of years, stories were our survival guide. They taught us what was dangerous, what was valuable, who we could trust. So naturally, our brains evolved to lock on to narrative patterns and just ignore raw, disconnected information. A presentation that's just a list of features, that's just noise. But a compelling story, that's a signal that absolutely commands our attention. So look at it this way. When you pitch a feature, you're basically knocking on the front door of the logical brain. And that part of the brain is the bouncer. It's the skeptic, the critic. Its only job is to conserve energy, avoid risk, and find every possible reason to say no. But when you tell a story, you sneak in through the side door.
You completely bypass that critical filter, and you connect directly with your customer's sense of who they are, their hopes, their fears. You're not asking them to evaluate a product anymore. You're inviting them to see themselves in a new, more powerful role.
And all of this brings us to a totally new objective. The goal is no longer to be just a little bit better than your competition. That's a losing game. It's the game of commoditization. No, the real goal is to become the only story in your category. Because when you own the narrative of your niche, your competitors suddenly start to look like supporting characters in a story they didn't even write. You end up creating a monopoly, not through features, but through meaning.
So, the big question is, how do we actually do this? How do we become myth makers? Well, we need a blueprint, an architecture. This isn't about just telling a few random feel-good anecdotes. No, this is a systematic process for engineering meaning, and it's called the Mythological-Anchoring Engine.
Now, this engine has 4 distinct, interconnected parts. Think of them as gates that a customer will pass through. First up is the Genesis myth. That's the origin gate. Then you have the villain, which is the conflict gate. Third is the insight, or the enlightenment gate. And finally, you have the new world, the resolution gate. These 4 pieces together form the absolute bedrock of your brand's signature story. Okay, let's break these down one by one. First, the Genesis myth. And let me be really clear, this is not your company history. Honestly, no one cares when you were founded. This is the why. This is the story of a frustration, a problem, a moment of insight that was so powerful that your brand simply had to exist. It establishes your purpose, it makes your existence feel necessary, even inevitable. It's the foundational truth that kicks off the entire drama.
Next up, the villain. And listen, every great story needs a great villain. This is your conflict gate. But we're not talking about a person or a competitor here. No. The villain is the old way of doing things. It's the complexity, the inefficiency, the injustice, that nagging frustration that's holding your customer back. By naming this villain, you give your customer's struggle a face and a name, and you position your brand as the champion who's going to help them fight it. You absolutely have to pick a fight.
All right, third is the insight. This is the enlightenment gate. This is the aha moment. It's your proprietary secret, that unique perspective, the paradigm shift that only your brand can offer. It's the key that unlocks the door to defeating the villain. And again, this isn't a feature, it's a brand new way of seeing the world. This is the thing you know that the old guard doesn't get. It's your core belief, carefully engineered into a powerful revelation for your customer.
And that brings us to the final gate, the new world. This is the resolution gate. It's that vivid, compelling picture of your customer's transformed life. See, it's not about what your product does, it's about who your customer gets to become. This is the promised land. This is the whole reason they joined your crusade in the first place. It's the motivation and the beautiful resolution that every single satisfying story has to have.
So okay, we've got the architecture, we have the 4 gates, but why does this work so incredibly well? The answer isn't in some dusty marketing textbook, it's in the hard science of the human brain. So now, let's look at the science that makes this whole engine just so powerful.
And this really is the critical question, isn't it? I mean, we are just constantly bombarded with claims and sales pitches, and our brains, to protect us, have built this incredibly powerful skepticism filter. So how does a story, a signature story, get past this defense system? How does it build real trust in a world that is just full of noise?
The answer is a fascinating phenomenon called neural coupling.
Okay, so what's happening here is absolutely fascinating. When you're listening to a really compelling story, your brain activity actually starts to synchronize with the brain of the storyteller. You're not just processing data, you're essentially installing their experience directly into your own mind. It's wild. And this process, this neural coupling, it literally deactivates the parts of your brain responsible for skepticism. As that happens, your brain releases oxytocin, the neurochemical of trust and social bonding. And what that creates is this incredibly powerful, durable form of trust, something far stronger than any money-back guarantee could ever be.
And the system also taps into this other powerful psychological drive called the Protagonist Bias. Here's the deal. Every single one of us sees ourselves as the hero of our own life story. It's just how we're wired. We want status, we want transformation, we want to overcome challenges. A brilliant brand gets this. It never positions itself as the hero. No, it acts as the wise guide, the mentor, think Yoda to Luke Skywalker. It gives the true hero, the customer, the insight and the tools they need to win the day. Because deep down, they don't want to just buy a tool. They want to undergo a rite of passage.
Okay, so let's translate all of this powerful theory into a clear, actionable framework. Because, understanding the science is one thing, but actually applying it is something else entirely. It's time to shift our thinking from being a marketer to being a myth maker.
Here are the 4 commands for mastering this. Number 1, architect for conflict. Seriously, don't be afraid to pick a fight with the old way. The bigger the conflict, the more compelling the story. Number 2, engineer your proprietary secret. That unique insight has to be the beating heart of everything you do. Third, automate your narrative distribution. Every single touchpoint, every ad, every email, every support ticket has to feel like a chapter in the same single story. And finally, number 4, measure your mythic reach. Forget about clicks and conversions for a second and ask yourself this: are your customers telling your story for you? Because if they aren't, your story just isn't strong enough yet.
So after all of this, what's the ultimate takeaway? When you make this shift, when you go from selling features to telling a signature story, what is the real ultimate advantage that you gain?
Well, here's the crucial point. We live in a world of infinite commodity. Pretty much anything can be copied, and copied quickly. The only thing that cannot be copied is meaning. Meaning creates a psychological moat around your brand that no competitor can ever cross. When you build that wall of meaning, you stop being just another choice in a crowded market.
The old way was all about pushing people through a funnel, right? Using discounts, pressure, clever little tactics. This new way, it's about creating a center of gravity. You build a story so compelling, a new world so desirable, that you just pull people towards you. They're not being sold to. They are actively choosing to join a crusade.
And that leaves us with one final thought. The kind of growth that comes from this approach, it isn't a simple, predictable line on a chart. It's a deep, resonant connection that's learned and earned over time. You don't just acquire a customer anymore. You create a disciple, an advocate, and that right there is a system that can make your brand not just successful, but truly legendary.